Now, the story I like to tell sometimes is that I was in a restaurant and this mother took a straw and she took her finger and she put over the top of it like this. Well, she put it down in the liquid, put her finger on it, and then she pulled it out and dropped the liquid in her child's mouth because she didn't have a bottle. And I looked at that and I said, "Oh my God, that's the way a pump works."
My first guest, Miss Ursula Odom, is one of those wonderful authors, and I'm so happy to have her on the show. Hi, Ursula. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine. How are you, Dr. Rhonda?
Oh my goodness, busy.
Well, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It really is. But what's a great thing is having you on the show tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me tonight, and to also talk about your work and what you're going to be doing with the literacy code.
Okay, well, thank you. So, where would you like me to start?
Start with you just telling me who is Ursula Odom.
Ooh, okay. So, that story begins with a little girl who crawled under her grandmother's bed, pulled out a have a Tampa cigar box, and it was filled with letters and photographs and a lock of her sister's hair. And from that time until now, I've been fascinated with old photographs and the stories behind those photographs and all things that goes along with that. So fast forward throughout the years, I've been associated with computer programming, sales, art, and it seemed like I was somewhat of a jack of all trades. But then I realized that all of those things came together for the benefit of my collecting history and then sharing that history, collecting family memories and helping people understand the importance of those family memories to their
Yes.
families and to our communities and to this nation. That your family history is our Black history, our
Right.
community history, our world history. That's what history is. It's the story of one person that made a difference or was in the right place or wrong place at the right time, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
But it is so important that we know our history. And I really feel like we're starting to see the effects of not listening when we were kids. Because now the elders are starting to die out, and they were trying to share those stories about our history, and we weren't always listening. We weren't
Right.
always sitting at their feet. And now that we're older and we understand the importance of it, we wish we had that time back.
Hmm. I often hear people say when they realize that I captured a lot of my family history, "Oh, I wish I had done that." Well, there's nothing we can do about what we didn't do, but you can always start with where you are because people will be saying that about you if you don't share. "Oh, I wish I'd talked to her." Well, sit down, either write it, record it, or share it, but
Yes.
somehow let people know those things that are important to you that maybe only you know, the brilliance of you.
Yes.
You may have done this wonderful thing that nobody knows about it because our culture says we shouldn't brag. Well, yeah, we should. We should.
Absolutely, we should. I think, yeah, we've gotten to the point where when we do want to talk about something amazing that happened in our family, or something amazing that happened to us, people see it as bragging, and so it almost shames the person into not saying anything.
Right. Exactly. And then we find out when the person passed away and we can't talk to them about it. "Oh my goodness, I didn't know he or she did this." Well,
Yes,
you didn't
yes,
ask. Yeah. So to
absolutely.
that end, I'm an author, a publisher, and I have a bookstore, Ursula's History Shop, which is really somewhat eclectic. I have things that look like a museum, things that look like a bookstore, and it's a presentation space, it's a meeting space. It's where we talk about things that maybe we forgot that even we even remembered. I mean, when we remembered it, we forgot that we even knew it. And making those connections between yesterday and today. Now, the story I like to tell sometimes is that I was in a restaurant, and this mother took a straw, and she took her finger and she put over the top of it like this. Well, she put it down in the liquid, put her finger on it, and then she pulled it out and dropped the liquid in her child's mouth because she didn't have a bottle. And I looked at that and I said, oh my God, that's the way a pump works. So sometimes you're looking at something that can give you a window into explaining something that is long since gone, but you can relate it to what somebody knows today. So connecting those pieces is what I love doing. And when I can see the light bulb go on for someone.
I love that. I'm really glad that you're doing that because more people need to learn their stories. I know around 2020, especially during COVID, a lot of people were trying to trace their histories
Yeah.
and things like 23andMe and so forth. And I'm hearing that these companies that were helping people to trace their family lineage are going out of business. People are, I guess, the excitement is worn off, and people aren't doing it as much.
Well, actually, I hadn't heard that they were going out of business. I know that one of them changed hands or something like that happened. It still exists, and as a user of that one company that I'm thinking about, I see no difference in the performance of it. The information is still there.
Yeah, I know
Um,
there was a company that was doing that, and they
yeah.
they had gone out of business because people weren't hitting them up as much.
Okay, so I obviously was not using the one that went out of business, so
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about. Um, but I see an uptick as opposed, well, maybe it's in the African American community because people that I know are really getting into it, because they are finding out that they have a connection to maybe a local person that made a difference in the community, or they found out that their mother or father wasn't who they thought they were, whatever. So then, people showing up in their relatives that they didn't know, or that you're related to somebody that, oh my God, this is a person that's in the news and I'm related to that person. So and one particular person in my community, she came in and she was related to someone that basically made a big difference during some riots in the 60s, and that was her uncle. So all of a sudden, she wanted to know the backstory, and she started researching and digging. And once she started that process, now she's like on steroids, really has gone from knowing nothing to being an absolute expert in that space. And she's just wonderful to listen to. And
That's
I love the fact that she came in to my store. Miss Ursula, do you have something over here? Do you have something over there? I said, yep, 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 here, here, here. And then she turned it into something rather fascinating to see. So,
So is that what you do with your publishing company?
is that what I do?
Oh
Yes,
yeah, is that the type of work that you publish with
I
with your
do. I
publishing?
tend to I tend to focus on stories that need to be documented, or that they are at risk of not being told or being lost. Now, lately, I've gotten some romance in the mix, and but nevertheless, that's what I focus on. And when I give presentations, it's mainly on nonfiction and the connection to history, local history, national history. And I portray a historical character, Mary McLeod Bethune, and so that's what I mean by so many different things look like I do here, this and this, but they all are about the story. It's just different forms of telling that
Yes.
story. And I create legacy walls. And what they are is that I take a blank wall in a school or a building, or now I have a person that wants to do this in her home for her family. And we educate as we decorate, meaning that blank wall becomes something that is decoratively interesting, but it also tells the story of the building, the person, the family.
I love that. Yes. So I That reminds me of a ministry at my church in New Orleans. There was a sewing ministry, and the older women were teaching the younger sew. And as they're learning to sew, they're telling them stories, and it wound up being a really nice bonding moment.
Yeah. So that brings back memories to my first marriage. um, I seemed to want to put everything my grandmother ever taught me into that wedding. I made my own dress. I made the bridesmaids' dresses. I even went out and found some things from to help with the catering process, right? Um, and when because I was doing so much, I had to sew up the dress like a few days just before I got married. But it worked out well. But I was putting everything in that I had ever learned. And to this day, I smile because one of the things that I have in my store is a rack of patterns. Now you wonder, why would I have patterns? Well, because I portray that historical character. I'm interested in uniforms, and I have a theater background, so I'm interested in costumes. So I only carry patterns of historical costumes.